One of the most urgent tasks for our country is to decisively defeat the climate hysteria hoax.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
The ability of CO2 to do the heavy work of creating a climate catastrophe is almost nil at this point.
The price of oil has been artificially elevated to the point of insanity.
That's not how you power a modern industrial system.
The ultimate goal of this renewable energy, plan is to reach the exact same point that we're at now.
You know who's tried that? Germany. 7 straight days of no wind for Germany. Their factories are shutting down.
They really do act like weather didn't happen prior to 1910.
Today is Friday.
That's right, Greta. It is Friday, and it is our favorite day of the week. And not just because the weekend is almost here, because this is the day the Heartland Institute broadcasts the Climate Realism Show. My name is Jim Lakely. I'm vice president of the Heartland Institute. We are an organization that has been around for 41 years, and we are known as the leading global think tank pushing back on climate alarmism. Heartland and this show bring you the data, the science, the facts, the truth that counters the climate alarmist narrative you've been fed every single day of your life. There is nothing else quite like the Climate Realism Show streaming anywhere. So I hope you will bring friends to view this live stream every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And also like, share, and subscribe. And be sure to leave comments underneath the video. These all convince YouTube's very mysterious algorithm to smile upon this program a little bit. And that helps get the show in front of even more people. And as a reminder, because big tech and the legacy media don't really like the way we cover climate and energy policy on this program, Heartland's YouTube channel has been demonetized. So if you want to support this program, and I really hope you do, please visit heartland.org/TCRS. That's heartland.org/TCRS. And you can join other friends of the program who help bring this show to the world every single week. And we also want to thank our streaming partners, that being the CO2 Coalition, CFACT, junkscience.com. What's up with that? And our friends at Heartland UK Europe. We have a big show today, and we have a very special guest today, so I want to get right into it and get started. We have with us, as usual, Anthony Watts. He is a senior fellow at the Heartland Institute and the publisher of the world's most viewed website on climate change. What's up with that? We have Sterling Burnett. He's the director of the Arthur B. Robinson Center on Climate and Environmental Policy at the Heartland Institute. And of course, Linnea Lueken, research fellow for energy and environment policy at Heartland. And I want to thank our producer, Andy, who had the power go out in his house about 10 minutes before we went to air. So he might be able to get back online and help us out in the background, but want to recognize our producer as well. But of course, she was going to be on last week. Something came up, and she is on this week. We're welcoming back to the show the lovely Lois Perry. She is the director of Heartland UK Europe, the host of the Lois Perry Show, A Bird's Eye View, which is a very cheeky little title there, Lois. And she just happens to be one of the most effective and influential commentators on climate and conservatism and common sense anywhere on the globe. It is our honor to have you back again, Lois.
One introduction, maybe in the UK, certainly not on the globe, as as you guys prove. But thank you so much.
I thought I've seen you on Australian television. Is that not true?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done this. Yeah, I've done Australian television. Yeah.
There you go. See, Globe, and I have a special coffee.
Okay, all right. I'll take it. All right, I'm an Essex girl, hence the bird thing.
Yes, tri-continental. Tri-continental.
Just keep the compliments coming. Actually.
Well, it is certainly a pleasure to have you on today, and there is a lot to talk about because what they used to call global warming, they now call global climate change. This is a global fight for climate realism, and you're kicking it over there. You're kicking butt over there, as we say in the United States, with Heartland UK Europe, and we are going to talk a little bit about that. But I know you wanted to have something to say about the recent horrible events that happened in the United States recently.
Thank you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so. I'd just like to say, on behalf of myself, my team, and I can't speak for everyone in the UK, but I can certainly speak for the majority of right-minded individuals in the UK. We would just like to offer the UK's most sincere condolences after the assassination and the death of Charlie Kirk. he was extraordinarily respected this side of the pond, the mother country, and we are absolutely devastated. And all we can hope is that his death, and I don't think I'm exaggerating here, like Jesus, obviously he's not Jesus, but that his death will mean that more people will come to our side, more people will realize that what's going on, and more people will come to God and to Christ. So his death will not be in vain. So yeah, thank you.
And Lois, you're right about that. It's not in vain. I read just this morning that over 65,000 requests have been put in to the Turning Point organization for new chapters at high schools and colleges. Wonderful. I mean, wow.
My son, he'll tell me off actually. I'm going to do it anyway. So my son, who's 22, I was a child bride, obviously. My son, he has never had any particular interest in faith. In fact, he has been almost passionately an atheist. Said to me the other day, I'm interested in finding out more about God. I don't want to be on the side of the people that are making these horrific comments about Charlie Kirk. And I thought, I need to be a little bit balanced here. I said, well, it doesn't mean you're a horrible person because you don't have faith. Lots of people who don't have faith that are good people. But he said, yeah, but there's something that Charlie had that I want. And I thought, my goodness, my son, who's been a passionate atheist, unfortunately, for all this time, saying that gave me such extraordinary hope. I think we're good. I think it is a sacrifice, and it is not in vain, and the movement is going to explode because of it. So thank you so much for sharing that with me about the chapters because that's proof of what I've been thinking. Thank you.
Like his wife said, you guys have no idea what you believe.
It's good.
Powerful testament.
Yep, for sure. All right. Well, our backgrounds here are a little bit messed up. I want to apologize to the audience, and I really love seeing that little green thing going around. And maybe we could fix that in the middle of the show. But just what? All that's just distracting from looking at Lois. So let's just make sure that she has got the attention she deserves because as a special guest on our show.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move on then to what? Last week, we always start the show, as you know, Lois, I'm sure, with the crazy climate news of the week. And last week, it was a little somber. So we decided to give our intro guy for crazy climate news the day off. But guess what? You're back on the job. Here we go. All right. Thank you again, Bill Nye. Only 1 week off for you. All right. So we're going to get to our crazy climate news. The first one here comes to us from the Daily Skeptic. I titled it in the sidebar, which you can't see right now, Dying to Save the Planet. And the headline here is funerals should comply with net zero, says Labour Party in the UK. So, apparently Labour wants to scrap gas cremations and make families say goodbye in eco-friendly wicker or bamboo coffins instead. And they link over from the Daily Skeptic over to the Telegraph. I'll read a little bit from this. New rules for crematoria drawn up by the UK Environment Department are set to be upgraded to meet both new pollution standards and the UK's commitment to reach the target of net zero by 2050, championed by Energy Secretary Ed Miliband. Your favorite person over there.
My favorite quote. Yeah.
Under the plan, the government will seek to cut emissions of greenhouse gases and other pollutants, including mercury from dental fillings and airborne toxins from burning coffin glue and embalming fluid. Draft rules also suggest crematoria burn bodies one after another with no gap to retain heat and save on gas. A tough target for an industry that relies almost entirely on gas-fired ovens. DEFRA makes clear that the burning coffin and corpse will generate emissions even if powered by green electricity. Oh my gosh. There is, however, a downside to cremations powered by electricity, which is that they take much longer. Cremations in gas ovens, quote, range from as little as 50 minutes to more than 2 hours, depending on body size, unquote. But, quote, cremation times on electric cremators are longer, the guidelines warn. Industry estimates suggest that cremating a large corpse would take up to 3 hours in a crematorium powered by low carbon electricity, twice as long as with gas. Anthony, I know Lois is going to weigh in here, but I want to start with you. This is just really gross. I mean, is there literally no aspect of life that the climate zealots won't micromanage?
That's
even
exactly
something
what
this
I was
grim?
thinking. Yeah, they want to get control of every aspect of your life, and they use the guise of, we're going to burn up from climate change if we don't change our lives. And it's an absolute lie what they're getting into. I mean, the bottom line is that when you look at temperatures, like, for example, the Central England Temperature Index, it has not changed significantly for a couple of centuries. The same thing goes with the U.S. Climate Reference Network in the United States since 2005. There's no significant changes. The idea that we are getting hotter from climate change is not supported by the data. Yes, overnight temperatures have gone up, but that's mostly due to the UHI effect and the microsighting effect that I have exposed in the 2022 climate report at Heartland about weather stations. And the UK is seeing now the same thing. We've got a great group of people over in the UK that are with the Daily Skeptic and others. They are going through and looking at all these weather stations, and they have found that the Met Office weather stations are even worse than the United States. And they've commissioned news stations where they don't even pay attention to the sighting. They're 4s and 5s on the scale, which are considered unacceptable by the World Meteorological Organization. So, the whole temperature data is just not supporting that we are getting a real crisis with climate. But the people that are dumb, like Ed Miliband, as we call him here, don't pay attention to that. They don't actually look at the data. They do not actually pay attention to history. They're only looking at the rhetoric that comes out in the latest press release, and that's what they latch onto, and that's what they use to try to control our lives. Rant over.
I'd like to weigh in on this. I was the one that shared the story, and you're right, Jim. There's no aspect of our lives that they don't want to control. Evidently in the UK, even more so than here, it's sort of cradle to grave, literally grave, climate mandates. They don't want you to have children now, right? They're constantly haranguing people, saying children are bad for the planet. They'd like one child or no child, China type policies, I suspect, if they had their wish. And now they want to tell you how to care for your loved ones post-death. They, despite the fact that the electric cremation, let's be clear, it might be 3 hours, but it could be as many as 5 hours. If you've got multiple, they want you to do them back to back to back. That could stack up for days, as opposed to moving through a number of bodies in a single day. It could take much longer. And of course, where does your electric power come from? Are you going to be able to cremate people on the days the wind isn't blowing? The sun isn't shining for a week. Good old sunny UK. Oh, wait. It's not. Will you have the power to run the electric crematoriums?
Well, yeah. I mean,
it's
the irony.
It could create more emissions, and it's just none of their business.
Lois?
No, you're absolutely right. And the irony is, obviously, because nobody could afford to heat their homes in the UK, our costs being 6 to 8 times more expensive than you guys, because we're not fracking, that people will be freezing to death. So they will have, extra people needing to be cremated in the winter where there's no wind and there's no solar. So how are they going to do these eco funerals? You're going to have extra bodies because of net zero, and then you're not going to be able to cremate them because of net zero. So where does real life actually, where does reality actually come in. But it's interesting what you say about I had a good friend of mine who retired a few years ago. He was the head of BBC Radio 2. He was a good guy. He was a bit of a woke, but he was okay. Anyway, so I went to his retirement party and Ed Miliband was there. And I said, at that time, I was heading up a climate realist organisation, nothing on the scale of you guys, very small, but influential organisation in the UK called Car 26. And I said, I don't believe in the science. And he was mortified. I mean, completely mortified. So he said, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. And it was a bit weird. He kept putting me off. He wanted to talk to me. And then he'd go a bit strange. And then he'd have a drink. Then he'd come back and pull me off down to the stairwell to lecture me about the dangers of CO2. And he kept going, you must come into Parliament, Lois. You must hear. It's real. It's real. And you know what? I actually believe that, look, I believe he is a Marxist, 100%. We know that. But I also believe he's really bought into this stuff, hook, line and sinker. And he's a zealot. And zealots are dangerous. He's a zealot for communism. But he's also, I genuinely believes all this gumph. I really, really do. So absolutely. So yeah, so we'll kill them all off in the winter and then we can't cremate them. Good plan. Well done, UK. God, it's embarrassing.
But you should. England doesn't have a lot of space. I know that.
No.
But you should find a space, some wilderness area that y'all protected for decades.
You're not going to say anything that I'm going to get in trouble for, are you?
I hope not. I'm just going to say, look, the Native Americans used to have, some Native American tribes used to have a practice.
Well, a banishment.
No, they set them up on that. When you died, they would set up a pyre, not a burning pyre, but just a stand, and leave you out there and let the buzzards and whatever birds you have in the UK take their choice. There's no methane. It's, you know, it's just.
Yeah, we haven't got enough room. Sorry. I mean,
now,
yeah.
Now that we're getting into the macabre, I would simply say my protest to this would be, if I had this situation in the UK, I would tell the funeral director to take the body in the casket to 10 Downing Street and drop it off and say, this is your problem now.
Yeah, well, you know, I was, yeah, we should move on. It's pretty grim.
It's
but
getting a little bit macabre.
Yeah,
it's getting a little bit gothic, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you know,
or as my daughter would say, emo.
Yeah.
Well, that's why this story is so perfect for crazy climate news of the week.
That's true. That's what we call it. Yeah. Well, I'll just close by saying, if I happen to pass away in the United Kingdom, I want to be burned on a pyre like Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi, because that will ensure maximum CO2 emissions, which is what I want my legacy to be.
Well, make sure you're wearing a Pittsburgh shirt.
I'm extraordinarily vain, so I've told both my children, which I'm sure they'll completely ignore, that I want to be buried and I want to have an effigy of me at age 25. On the top, lounging like this. So both of them will ignore it, and they'll probably get me a co-op funeral, which costs about $3,000. And you know, but I said I will haunt them, so they have got that on their backs.
Should do what your mother says, always. All right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's move on.
My daughter to do that.
For sure. All right. Let's move away from the macabre and into the ridiculous and the disasters of the electric vehicle disaster update. We like to visit this topic every few months just to check in on how it's going badly. And we may not even have to report on this after too much longer, the way things are going. But EV disaster update is a friend of mine in the show, writer Buck Throckmorton at Ace of Spades HQ, calls EVs external combustion vehicles, which I think is a pretty good way to say it. That's what EV stands for. Anyway. This comes from the publication Canadian Manufacturing. Quebec pulls all 1,200 Lion electric buses off roads after school bus fire. Schools across Quebec have been forced to cancel bus services after the government pulled all of the roughly 1,200 Lion electric buses in the province off the roads. The provincial government said it took the precautionary measure after after a Lion electric school bus caught fire in Montreal earlier this week. Several children and a driver were inside the bus when it caught fire, but nobody was injured. In a joint statement on September 11th, Education Minister Sonia Labelle and Transportation Minister Jonathan Julien said a, quote, defect may have caused September 9th's fire. Quote, the preventive vehicle inspection operation will take place all weekend to allow normal school transportation to resume as quickly as possible, they said. If adjustments to the vehicles are necessary, alternatives will be offered to parents for transporting their children to school next week. Now, the story does go on to say, or claim, I'll just say it that way, that batteries were not the cause of these fires. And that seems, I don't know, pretty suspicious to me, but let's take their word for it. History, however, says it's only a matter of time until they become external combustion vehicles because of their batteries. And then there's another story here related to electric vehicles. This comes from USA Today. The Ram 1500 REV has been canceled. Stellantis shifts energy strategy as EV demand drops. And let me read a little bit from this. Ram is pulling the plug on its electrified pickup truck. Initially called the Ram 1500 REV, the fully electric pickup was slated for market in 2024. Then it was delayed until 2025. Then it was 2026. Recently, the deadline was moved to 2027. And now the automaker has canceled the whole program, the company announced on September 12th. Quote, as demand for full-size battery electric trucks slows down in North America, Stellantis is reassessing its product strategy and will discontinue development of a full-size BEV pickup, the company said. Ram now says that the nameplate of the now defunct EV pickup will be transferred to what was previously known as the Ram Charger, a Ram 1500 on a range-extended powertrain, which is slightly different from a full battery-powered electric vehicle. The range-extended pickup truck is projected to go on sale in 2026. Now, the idea is that Ram, the 1500 REV, will use power from the battery to power the vehicle forward, and it will drive and feel like an EV. However, the battery is powered by an internal combustion engine in the truck that runs on gasoline. So the battery will not have to be plugged in to be charged, although that is an option. You simply fill up the tank and drive the car. So that's not exactly a hybrid. But an EV powered by an internal combustion engine, I don't know. Maybe there's going to be a market for this. Sterling, we always go to you first when we get to these crazy stories. But you know, we were told by very reliable sources that electric vehicles were the future. That the future is here now. Yep. What happened?
So much to say. First off, I believe that that school bus fire wasn't due to the electric battery, just like I believe that Portugal and Spain's electricity failure last year wasn't due to wind and solar. In other words, I don't believe it. It's interesting. If it wasn't due to the batteries or to the unique structure of operating a battery-powered bus, then why did they pull all the battery-powered buses but none of the diesel off the road? What's the difference? Oh, the battery and the battery pack and the electrical system working the batteries. You know, they've got a problem. It's not just in the UK. It's not just in Canada. They have found that buses don't complete their routes, stranding children, especially during bad weather, like in the snow in Maine, where you don't want your bus dying on the side of the road with no heating. And the problem is compounded by the fact that Lion and Proterra, another electric bus manufacturer, have now both declared bankruptcy. Lion had multiple billion, I think 4.1 billion or 1.2 billion, I forget how many. In 21, that was its value. It sold in bankruptcy for less than 100 million. They aren't honoring their warranties because a company that's out of business can't, fix things when they're broken. In the U.S., we've subsidized hundreds, if not thousands, of these electric buses being bought. Many of the diesel buses were trash, not recycled, because we didn't want to go back to diesel. We didn't want that option. So now they have to buy new diesel. The costs are higher. The cost of operating are higher. They don't run as long. This was this was a disaster that was, I'm not much of a prognosticator, but I predicted this one because it wasn't that hard. It wasn't that hard. Look at all the fires. Look at all the people in danger. Look at people who aren't even on the vehicles, like the scooters that catch fire in New York and burn down buildings, killing people. This was something waiting to happen. It's happened in India. It's happened in France.
Yeah.
Everywhere EVs have been tried and used, and governments have forced them to be tried and used, and they're putting children at risk. And it's good they're taking them off the road. This is an experiment that has not just failed, but it was easily predicted to have failed in advance. As far as Stellantis, look, that truck that you described, it's not the first hybrid to operate that way. Karma, which used to be Fisker, was precisely that. It was a hybrid electric vehicle. It had a battery. It had full battery range for about 30 miles. But then it had an internal combustion engine that charged the battery. And so it could run, normal range.
Which makes sense.
And BMW's i8 is the same thing. So Stellantis wasn't, they weren't trying to cop out. They do have batteries. The batteries run them for a certain amount of thing, but the internal combustion engine charges them. It's a different kind of hybrid. It's actually the only kind of low emission vehicle I support, because you got the internal combustion engine backing you up or providing power. That's what diesel electric motors do, right?
It charges. It does. My understanding is that the fact that it generates energy by being a normal ICE vehicle charges the battery so that it can work. That it can actually be quite good, But
Yep.
but the climate change conundrums would have us believe that this was some sort of panacea, that the electric car was going to save us all and it was going to be good and clean. And you know what? All those annoying poor people wouldn't be able to drive. We don't want them on the road anyway. We don't really want them making a few quid. It's much better than at home, because we don't need them anyway, because we've got AI now, so I just get the feeling, and it's because of you guys being so amazing on the other side of the pond, that narrative is not the case now. It really isn't. It's not the case. The whole net zero, the whole electric vehicle, the whole ICE thing, the whole anti-fossil fuel, because of what you've done and because Trump is in power, I feel that that's not. Am I right to feel that? Am I right to feel that?
Well, unfortunately, you're right. You're both right and wrong.
Okay.
Trump is getting rid of a lot of this stuff. I mean, he's just whacking it daily. We're winning.
Good. Whack-a-mole.
On green energy. But for some reason, the Trump administration has decided to continue to fund the network of EV chargers that the Biden administration.
Really?
Yeah, it was a surprise to me. I just found that out. So we're not going to build the thousands and thousands that Biden had wanted to do, but I think we're still on pace. We're still funding several hundred new national EV chargers, which I think is once again a waste of money that we should have avoided.
I tell you what, even though you guys are doing that, it's still 1.5 billion trillion times better than what's going on in this country. I can tell you that for nothing.
And Jim keeps pulling a Jim. He hasn't figured out that he's on mute.
Oh,
that's right. We were gonna do a pulling a Jim jar that we're gonna have out, and
it's on my to-do list. I'm gonna make one.
It is pulling a Jim. That's called keeping your mute button on and not noticing. But I would just add that the $7,500 tax credit for purchasing EVs, it ends today, September 19th, ends in 11 days.
Yep.
So at least, Lois, that Trump and the Progressive Republicans got the taxpayers out of the spiraling into the toilet EV business, and the government is apparently out of the EV mandate business. So
good.
Yeah. So if you're interested in an EV vehicle, get one while you can, I guess, because the sales of EVs.
Why would anyone want one?
Yeah.
Isn't it a bit like being castrated for a man driving an electric car? Honestly, imagine.
Now you're going to get us in trouble. Now you're going to get us in trouble.
Back me up. If a guy picks you up in an electric car, you just say, no, it's not. I'm not going out with you, is it?
Well,
I'm really busy. I've suddenly realised that my cat needs to be brushed or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, you come up with a reason why not to get in the car, won't you?
He's probably got a man bun. And,
have a man fun,
And we
your
have
little bag, and then he'd ask you to go halves on the dinner. 100%.
a Save the Earth sticker, and he wants to take you to the vegan restaurant.
Not happening. Not happening.
Yeah. Well, you know, America.
I'm right, aren't I? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, America has a car culture. America has a car culture. Anthony is very familiar with it, man. Muscle cars and, you know, all of that stuff. So yeah, maybe women, maybe single women can get us out of this mess.
Electric car person.
To be fair, you know, the EVs do have the added benefit, I guess, of you don't have to have a lighter or a match to start a bonfire. Sometimes, if you,
I suppose it'd be more plausible if they pretended to break down, wouldn't it, on the way back?
Yeah.
They could just say they've run out of battery.
Yep, just pull over, and
Now that one, and if they know anything about electric vehicles, they couldn't say, "Oh, this is just a ploy." Yeah.
No, you say, "Okay, all right, you know, I don't really believe you, but it's possible. It's possible."
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I'm being silly. Sorry.
No, we like to have a lot of fun on this show, and so yeah, you could just pull up to the you could just pull up next to a comely young lady and have "I'm Burning for You" blasting from your speakers in your electric car and see how that works out.
But yeah, and it will run out very quickly, but because if you have the speakers on, apparently that winds the battery down.
That's gonna be a short date. All right, let's move on to our next item here, which I've titled "We'll Never Have Paris." This comes from the New York Times, and this is in the very good news segment of our crazy climate news of the week. From New York Times Magazine, it isn't just the U.S., the whole world has soured on climate politics. The day has come, guys. The day has come. Their subhead is, how do we think about the climate future now that the era marked by the Paris Agreement has so utterly disappeared? I'll read a bit from this and try not to smile too hard and hurt your face. 10 years ago this fall, scientists and diplomats from 195 countries gathered in Le Bourget, just north of Paris, and hammered out a plan to save the world. They called it blandly the Paris Agreement. But it was obviously a climate politics landmark, a nearly universal global pledge to stave off catastrophic temperature rise and secure a more livable future for all. Heartland Institute, myself included, were there, by the way, during those negotiations. Barack Obama, applauding the agreement as president, declared that Paris represented, quote, the best chance we have to save the one planet we've got, unquote. Paris wasn't just a brief flare of climate optimism. To many, it looked like the promise of a whole new era, not just for the climate, but also for our shared political future on this earth. A decade later, we are living in a very different world. At last year's UN Climate Change Conference, COP29, the president of the host country, Azerbaijan's Ilham Aliyev, praised oil and gas as, quote, gifts from God. And though the annual conferences since Paris were often high-profile, star-studded affairs, this time there were few world leaders to be found. Joe Biden, then still president, didn't show. Neither did Vice President Kamala Harris or President Xi Jinping of China or President Ursula von der Leyen of the European Commission. Neither did President Emmanuel Macron of France, often seen as the literal face of Western liberalism, or President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva of Brazil, often seen as the face of an emergent movement of solidarity across the poor and middle-income world. This year's conference, which takes place in Brazil this November, is meant to be more significant. COP30 marks 10 years since Paris, and all 195 parties to the 2015 agreement are supposed to arrive with updated decarbonization plans called Nationally Determined Contributions, or NDCs. But when one formal deadline passed this February, only 15 countries, just 8%, had completed the assignment. Months later, more plans have trickled in, but arguably only one is actually compatible with the goals of the Paris Agreement. I'm almost done, guys, but I'm enjoying this. Everywhere you look, the spike of climate alarm that followed Paris has given way to something its supporters might describe as climate moderation, but which critics would call complacency or indifference. Quote, you can't walk more than 2 feet at any global conference today without pragmatism and realism being thrown around as the order of the day, says Jason Bordoff, a former Obama energy advisor who now runs Columbia University's Center on Global Energy Policy. But, quote, "It's not clear to me that anyone knows what those words mean, other than this whole climate thing is just too hard." And I will end it there. I can't take my excitement anymore. I don't know how more dramatically I can read this, but I did enjoy it. Linnea, I'm going to start with you because after all of these jet-setting global leaders are trying to save the planet for you and for your generation and the ones that come after you, and they have failed you. Do we need to fund some counseling for your grief? Do you need a safe space? What's your reaction?
Well, you know what? They have failed my generation and younger, and that's by inflicting us with climate anxiety that's completely unnecessary.
Totally.
Right. So yeah, we have been afflicted by climate change, and it's because of the media, and it's because of our politicians who don't understand the science and don't intend on looking into it any deeper than they already have, which is to say not at all, other than, taking whatever it is that their assistants hand to them. But the Paris Agreement has been a joke since the beginning. One of our commenters pointed out that Stossel had a funny video about it, showing all of the countries and their promises, and it's all just like the West is just being fleeced, is basically what's going on with Paris. And it reminds me of every single time people talk glowingly about how green China is. And it takes an unbelievable amount of, I don't even know, just
cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, you're just ignoring all of the evidence because he brags about how many wind turbine elements and how many solar panels they produce. Like, meanwhile, they're just paving over half of their land and building tons of new coal and everything at the same time. They say that they do not anticipate whatsoever in decreasing the amount of coal that they use. In fact, that they have told other countries that they plan on increasing how much coal they use over the next couple of years. You have to live in a completely different world to believe any of this stuff.
Yeah, China's expanding coal imports right now, and it's having ripples on the world coal price market. China alone.
They're using so much.
Yeah, they're importing so much. It's not because they can't produce enough domestically.
You're joking. Really? I should know that. That's bad.
So
Sorry, Jim.
We're having to import it. And that, of course, the importation is emissions, and that's affecting world coal prices. So, I wrote climate change. I've been writing Climate Change Weekly for a while now, and Paris was 2015. And if you read, you have to go back to the archives, but you read the 2 or 3 Climate Change Weeklies I wrote after Paris. And I pointed out that they knew that to some extent, the Times article is premised on a lie. Paris was never, even by their own lights, their own standards, Paris was never going to save the earth. And they knew it at the time. People, James Hansen said so. This is a fake agreement. It has no teeth. Why? The standards, all voluntary. Every country had to set its own emissions reductions goals. The general goal was under 2 degrees, but as close as possible to below 1.5 degrees. We were already locked in to surpass that. And the nothing in the agreement, it was what Hobbes said, covenant without the sword is but words. There was no penalty for not hitting any of your targets other than the next year's climate conference. They'd say, bad, naughty. You're a naughty child for not eating your peas, not hitting your goals. And they knew it at the time. What I'm saying is it was never going to save the earth. When they signed the agreement, they had the big conference, they had the big press release, but they knew at the time that this was not going to do what they said. And now for them to be bemoaning 10 years later, oh my gosh, we're not meeting the goals that were going to save the earth, when they knew they wouldn't save the earth at the time, is just, it's kabuki theater.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Jim,
you're on mute.
Man,
that's two.
You're paying big time this time, Jim.
That's 2. I'm gonna go broke. Oh, we have to end the stream earlier. I'm going to go broke.
But Jim, do you know what the history of the two fingers up with the nails facing front?
I do.
is?
I
You
do. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no,
I
you're
apologize.
supposed to now. I was going to say, oh, okay,
Two.
whatever. You're too clever.
Two. Rock
No,
on.
no, but do you know what this one is?
I do know what that one is.
It's
Yes.
about the archers. You know that, okay?
Yes, I do. I apologize. We do have a lot of viewers from the UK, and we have a guest from the UK.
No. Sorry, I thought I was being interesting. I clearly not quite interesting enough.
Oh. I don't know I can't speak any languages fluently, but I can swear at about 10. So
well, that's all you need.
That's all you need in most countries, really. All right. Anthony, you want to add anything to this discussion about Paris? I mean, to me, it's just the despair. I hear this. I hear the pain in the voices. It bleeds off the page digitally in places like the New York Times. And I don't know, maybe I'm a bad person, but it makes me happy.
You're not a bad person, Jim. We're all thinking the same thing. But the whole Paris Climate Agreement was just simply a number pulled out of thin air. This is what we think we can convince people to agree to. That's all it was. There's no science behind it. And the bottom line is that we have already reached 1.5 degrees centigrade of temperature rise. If you go back and you look at older records, back to about 1850, you will see that we've not only reached but exceeded that amount, and the world did not collapse. Death and destruction did not rain from the skies. And, it's just, I don't have any other word for the Paris Climate Agreement except it was bullshit. I'm sorry, that's all it is.
Is that a technical term?
Yes, that's a scientifically precise term.
Thank you so much.
Well,
okay. The technical term is Defecus Maximus.
Well, now
it sounds like a dinosaur in Jurassic Park.
Well, now we know Anthony knows how to state profanity in two languages, English and Latin. So that's great.
Latin, yeah, it's extraordinarily impressive.
I would just point out that since Paris, I believe we've had the last 3 conferences in petrostates.
Yes.
The Azerbaijan, where they praised it, right? The one before that was, I believe, somewhere in the Middle East. I forget whether it's Oman or the UAE. If it wasn't the one before that, it was the one before that. And now they're going to Brazil, which is a petrostate as well. It's the largest or second largest producer of oil in South America. They are not giving up their oil, contrary to their green credentials. They're increasing their output.
Oh my God, who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it? And to hold this conference, rather than, say what you will about Paris, say what you will about the UAE, where they held the conference, they held them in major cities, right? In places that you could get to. They didn't have to destroy entire countrysides to hold a conference on climate change. No. In Brazil, where they're hosting it now, they are mowing down thousands, if not tens of thousands of acres of the Amazon that they say are the lungs of the world to make roads to ship people from major destinations to the destination. They don't have the hotels for people. It's going to be one of the smallest attended, I suspect, COP conferences, which, by their light should be good for the planet. But what can't be good for the planet is all the destruction they're wreaking, because they could have held it in Sao Paulo, or they could have held it in, God, I'm getting old. Brazil's largest city.
Rio de Janeiro.
Rio de Janeiro.
Well, the thing is, though, they're all busy because they're all with Greta on a flotilla towards Israel. Like they found another cause. So maybe they'll let us. Maybe they'll leave us be. Who knows?
Yeah. By the way, I didn't see any sails on that boat of the flotilla for.
No, but you know what the funny thing is? Israel was so clever. What they did is they said, "Yeah, okay, you can come in. That's not a problem, but you will be going into a military prison." Suddenly, there was massive climate change, and there was a freak storm, and they had to turn around. I mean, how extraordinary that they had this storm that meant that they couldn't go to Israel when they've been told they were all going to be put in military prison.
The storm that nobody in the meteorological community could find
the storm
on the radar.
That literally nobody else knew about. Good. I'm happy for them. I don't want to see Greta in a military prison, or maybe I do. I don't know.
Well, you know, she could.
Actually, I'd pay £100 million to see her in prison, wouldn't you?
They could turn the flotilla around and head towards the Amazon and try and go up the Amazon to the conference, and perhaps not be, taken over by tribal peoples.
Maybe she could charge her phone by plugging it into a tree and see how that works out for her, right?
Yeah, well, as the song goes, clowns to the left of me and jokers to the right.
Here I am stuck in the middle with you. Well, I'm glad that I'm stuck in the middle with you guys. You're fabulous.
That's right. All right, well, let's get on to our main story today, and the big reason why we have the wonderful Lois Perry on the program today that we're so fortunate to have today, and that is how climate realism is heating up in the United Kingdom. And this story comes from Politico. The Trump-aligned climate skeptics advising Britain's Nigel Farage. So buckle up, Lois. This one is about you. It even
I know all these credible sources writing about me. I mean, thank you.
Great. So let's read a little bit. Let's read quite a bit actually from this, because I think it's important to cover all of this information here. And so Politico, which is a left-wing garbage publication here in the United States, writes, Nigel Farage's Reform Party is being advised by a think tank which denies the science of climate change and claims the UK government wants to use electric vehicles to control its citizens. Hey, we just mentioned electric vehicles. Lois Perry, UK and Europe director of the Heartland Institute think tank, told attendees at Reform's annual conference last week that she was, quote, very grateful to be able to consult and influence the Reform Party at the highest level, unquote. The Heartland Institute confirmed to Politico this week that it has held conversations with policymakers within Reform UK. The Institute, which is closely aligned with US President Donald Trump's anti-climate policies, I don't even know what that means, has cast doubt on global warming and branded climate change policies a hoax and a scam. Earlier this year, meaning Heartland, backed Trump's decision to pull out of the UN Paris Climate Agreement and to roll back Joe Biden-era clean energy projects. The organization was invited to an event at the White House Rose Garden when Trump announced plans to pull the U.S. out of Paris during his first term in 2017. Quote, the reality is this, we're not facing a climate crisis. The organization's president, James Taylor, told a Heartland-sponsored fringe event at Reform Party's conference in Birmingham on Saturday.
We were on the main stage. Sorry to be a pedant, but we were actually the main the main panel event on the main stage. Okay.
Oh yeah, you can explain all that here very shortly.
Okay.
All right. Quote, the reality is this, said James Taylor. We are not facing a climate crisis. Speaking at the same conference fringe event, they did it twice, Lois. Perry, a former leader of UKIP, said, quote, there's nothing wrong with CO2. CO2 is not a pollutant. They're quoting you there, Lois. She said that government net zero policies are, quote, bad for the environment and have been induced, quote, to control us. It's to tax us, is to take our money, and is to take our liberty. Perry added, they want us in electric cars. Electric cars can be remotely controlled. Again, not a conspiracy theory. These cars can be shut down. Imagine during COVID, imagine your car is disabled remotely. You have no control over it because it's an electric car. And that's if you can afford an electric car. There's a reason why this neo-Marxist communist shambolic government wants us in electric cars. It is so that we have no freedom whatsoever. Lois, congratulations. That was a fantastic quote. Congratulations on the event.
Ever let Nigel Farage give me 3 glasses of champagne at breakfast again.
So
well,
that
actually,
was great.
You know what? Maybe I should. I didn't hold back. I apologize if it was a little bit too much.
Not for me.
But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to communicate. I mean, we had a huge audience, Jim. I mean, it was huge. We had seating for 400 people, but there were 100 people that wanted to come in. So James will tell you this. James Taylor, obviously president of Heartland Institute, main in America, Heartland Institute. There were people coming all around. We had people standing. We had people trying to push through. It was extraordinary. And what I really got from that event, especially with the Q&As, is that people said, we believe you. We totally get what you're saying. We know this is a scam, but give us the tools. Give us the tools to fight back, because they're going to come at us with all this stuff, and give us the tools. And James told them about the tools that we have and that Heartland USA have to counter all the arguments. I don't know the exact link, but Jim, if maybe you could share it, where people are, it has all the answers to all the most commonly asked questions, like polar bears, climate change, freak events, and people were writing it down. They were scribbling it down on their notepads. They were really into it. It was actually, and I don't say this lightly, it was actually quite beautiful. It really was. I loved it.
ClimateAtAglance.com.
That's it. Thank you.
And we're about to have an updated second edition out this next week, which people can order off. Oh, Jim's saying something here.
Oh, sorry.
If he's not.
No, I was going to say second edition, but I didn't want to offend anybody, so I'll do it this way. Second edition.
Yeah, second edition. It's updated. It has some new material, but it also has updated material from the last edition. And Amazon.
And there's an app, isn't there?
And we've got an app. Yeah, they get on their app. They can go to our website. A lot of ways to access it, but that's got the factual, detailed information. In addition, if they if you're like me, you wake up in the morning and you go through some headlines, and almost every day you find a climate headline. And every day at climaterealism.com, we respond to those climate headlines, debunking them.
Well, I'd just like to say as well, from Nigel Farage, that people keep trying to catch him out by saying that he's working with us, yeah? And he's proud to work with us. So no one's catching him out. He thinks that we're fab, right? Yeah. So, all these journalists trying to say, oh my goodness, you work with them and he's like, and so I just wanted to tell you guys and your viewers that he's proud to be, he will never say I agree 100% with any particular group, but he's not. When people say, oh, how can you work with them, he says, of course I work with them, or of course I listen to them.
It's hard to call Nigel and Reform fringe when they are soon possibly to be the second or first.
No, they were calling our event fringe. They were trying to be a bit, yeah. But there was one conference. There was obviously two big hangers. It was huge actually, and you, me, us, we were the biggest panel discussion of the whole event. People were queuing up to come into our event. So there you go.
Well, yeah, Lois, I was going to ask you. I mean, we mentioned when we hoped to have you last week, and so glad to have you this week. But
I'm sorry about that.
No, I told you at the time. There's no need to apologize. It's completely understandable. But we had gone over a poll that we saw in the British press about how British citizens are they're growing more skeptical of climate alarmism. I think a 50% increase in attitudes like net zero is a loser, that the threat of human caused climate change is grossly exaggerated. All these things, all these data points that the British people are coming closer to our side and your side of the issue. And then I saw, I had it in the show notes, but didn't put it up on the screen, but one of the MPs from the Tories has decided to leave the Conservative Party and move over to Reform UK. Yeah. So give us a better sense of, I mean, are we winning, or is this fool's gold?
Oh my goodness, we are winning. We are winning. So because of us, because of Heartland USA, because of Heartland UK Europe, the party that is polling consistently in the last 101 polls, so it's not a fluke, it's not a reaction, it's not a protest vote. The party that is polling consistently, not only ahead of the other parties, but today 34%, when the other two main parties were on 16% each, so 32% obviously, were below combined. That party has said day one, day one in government, they're abolishing all net zero policies. We're winning. We are winning. And thank you very much for being able to continue your work in the UK and Europe. So in November, and Jim, I really hope that you can join us, all of you. We are doing an event in Poland, which will combine Italy, Romania, France, all of the big European countries to really, really challenge the whole net zero concept in terms of specifically for agriculture. And I hope to get certain person to come. If I can't, I can't. If I can, I can. But it will be a big event, because yes, we are winning the UK. Let's do Europe. This Heartland Europe together.
You correct me if I'm wrong, Lois, but didn't Labour's MP, the Prime Minister, recently have to slap down some of Ed Miliband's climate plans as being too radical?
Yes.
They didn't get rid of them, but they tempered them. Am I wrong about that?
Well, apparently Keir Starmer, he of the Ukrainian young men, sorry, right. So Keir Starmer wanted to fire Ed Miliband, and Ed Miliband refused to go, which is a testament to the weakness of his position. I personally think that there'll be a challenge to his leadership within 3 to 6 months. And look, I can say this because Nigel said this. We are semi-preparing for a general election in 2027. So hopefully things will be normal and like you guys before too long. Hopefully.
That would be fantastic. I've not heard. I was 6 months ago, I was optimistic that may happen, and then I've been more pessimistic over the last several months. So
well,
it's good to have you
Nigel said it at the conference, Jim. He said that we are tentatively preparing for 2027.
That's great. Well, I mean, you've done amazing work at Heartland UK.
Thank you.
I mean, that organization's only been stood up for about 10 months, and you're already being attacked
because you and James believed that that it was worth the punt, and I want to thank you for that. Thank you.
Oh, well, your success there is worth every minute of time that we've dedicated and to help stand that up over there. And you know you're doing well when you're being attacked by all the right people.
I love it. Yeah. Bring it on.
That's great. And I just want to, before we get into the Q&A, I also just wanted to mention that you can find the Lois Perry Show. It streams on X. It streams on YouTube. Is it on Rumble as well yet, or you can move there soon? But it's very easy to find.
We need to rumble.
Yeah. And so you had Lord Christopher Monkton on 2 weeks ago, so that was nice. Yeah. I enjoyed that show. So definitely just search for the Lois Perry Show on X or on YouTube, and check out her archive.
UK Europe X every Wednesday, 7 to 8 p.m. for various reasons that you understand I won't go into now, but there wasn't a show on the Wednesday just gone, but there's going to be a massive show next week. So it's all good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get into the Q&A, and again, congratulations, Lois, and continued success. And we hope to have you on the show quite often to talk about that success.
I love being on your show.
We love having you. So, all right, before we get to Q&A, I want to mention that how happy we are to have a sponsor for the Climate Realism Show, and that sponsor is Advisor Metals. Now, if like me, you listen to a lot of conservative shows like the Lois Perry Show, not necessarily that one, but for this idea, but because you don't hear him on her show, but almost every conservative show that's streaming anywhere has pitches for buying gold and silver and other precious metals. And there are just so many companies out there that can provide that for you. But we here at the Climate Realism Show want to tell you why you should trust our sponsor for this show, Advisor Metals. And it's the man who runs the company, and his name is Ira Bershatsky. Ira is the managing member of Advisor Metals. He is not one of those people that employs high-pressure tactics and deceptive marketing ploys like many of the firms in so-called big gold. Ira also does not deal in so-called rare coins, which maybe are not rare at all. When you buy gold and other precious metals from Advisor Metals, you are dealing in quality bullion. And that is so much better to have in hand when it comes time to liquidate this very valuable physical asset. And when you buy from Advisor Metals, you're going to have your investment sent discreetly right to your home. And Ira, by the way, is advertising on our program because he is an America First patriot. He doesn't donate to Democrats or their causes. He refuses to work with proxies of the Chinese Communist Party. And he, like us and Lois, abhor the machinations and schemes of the World Economic Forum. And so we are very proud to have Ira as a sponsor with Advisor Metals. So if you want to diversify your portfolio, if you want to back up your IRA with real physical bullion and precious metals, go to climaterealismshow.com/metals. You can leave your information there, and Ira or someone on his team will get back to you and make this process very easy for you. Again, that's climaterealismshow.com/metals, and be sure to tell them where you heard about it and who sent you, because that helps us and this program while you're helping yourself. Thank you very much, and for your attention to this matter. With that, we get to our, every part of the show is our favorite. It's the Q&A section. Linnea, please take it away.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have a whole bunch of questions here. I'm going to start with one for Lois, and that is from Fighting Zenithian, who says, Lois, have you considered talking with Lewis of TIK history? He has done great videos on World War II and debunked the privatization myth that leftists have perpetuated.
Right. So no, the answer is I haven't, but if he wanted to get in touch with me, and I'm not entirely sure what that actually means, the privatization myth that leftists have perpetuated. But if you would like to, maybe Jim could send forward an email and I can deal directly with that. Yeah. Okay. The answer no, but I'm happy to look at it. No problem.
All right. Our frequent viewer engineer guy asks, who saw Steve Malloy's post on LinkedIn regarding the Arctic sea ice? Yeah. What was that about, guys? Because I didn't see it.
Go ahead. Did you see it, Anthony?
Yeah, I did, and now my brain has gone blank. I can't remember.
Are you sure you haven't had
I've got brain freeze from
I think it had to do with the Arctic sea ice not having gone down since 2012, 13 years and billions of tons of CO2 ago. That the sea ice levels were higher this year than last year,
right?
But they've hovered about the same.
Yeah, he tweeted that too.
He did tweet that too. Yeah. So yeah, the idea of that the Arctic sea ice is not cooperating with the alarmists because it's not melting. Sorry, guys.
We still don't have a Northwest Passage from that they dreamed of from England to Russia without going around. Either the North or South, the Cape of Good Hope or, Straits of Magellan. They can't cross the Arctic to get there.
All right. Our good friend Stan Goldenberg says, so did President Trump help push King Charles towards climate realism, Lois?
Well, I've been in a pretty tricky predicament recently because I'm an ardent monarchist and I haven't got it on at the moment, but I've got a massive neon in my quite old-fashioned living room. It's 250 years old, but I've got a massive neon saying "God Save the Queen," and so it's been pretty tricky for me. I don't like to criticize our king. It's more about the institution of the king as opposed to a personal to an individual, but he has benefited, and you can't shy away from this, from extraordinary public subsidies to offshore wind, hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds every year to the Duchy when he was Prince of Wales, and now that continues. So there's no way he could be perceived as impartial. However, there's a couple of things recently that has given me hope. There's a couple of bills that went through Parliament. One of them, and I'm not casting any opinion on behalf of the Heartland here at all, but there was a particular bill that went through to do with abortion, and there was a particular bill that went through to do with assisted suicide. And he had his PR guy put a statement out that said that he was uncomfortable with signing these bills. Yeah, which made me think, okay, there is a traditional king in there. There is a heart. So, okay. So my answer to that question is yes, I do believe that Trump would have an influence. Monarchies have to adapt to survive. Maybe they previously thought they had to adapt to climate, to net zero and globalism and all of that jazz. Maybe now they're feeling that they need to pull it back. I quite like to be a dame one day and I quite like my son to be knighted. So, and what a pussy I am, eh? So I'm not going to criticize my monarchy any more than that, but I will say that we are pragmatic, and my answer as an English person is yes. I think Trump would have had an influence on my king.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. But when he was before he was the king, he was a prince.
That's right.
And he did make some claims when he was a prince. Like in 2009, we have 96 months left to save the earth.
Can I just say something to you? My personal situation as an English person, you are a citizen, I am a subject, okay, right? I can have opinions about my king, but I'm not going to criticize my king,
right?
Even if I agree with every word you say. Now, if that makes me a sellout, and if that makes me, not a good person, then judge me accordingly, but I can't criticize my king, even if I agree with every single word you say. Can you forgive me for that?
I'm not asking you to agree or disagree with me. I'm just saying, as a matter of fact, he made a prediction.
No, I get it.
He's not a climate scientist. He's not a climate researcher. No. He is above the pay grade of everyone. And I suspect he hasn't spent decades studying the issue. And he made a prediction of 96 months. 96 months has come and gone years ago. And we're still here. And we haven't solved the climate crisis, which is what he said was necessary to save us. So I'm not sure, king or not, on this side of the pond, and maybe anywhere else.
You threw us out. That's why.
If you guys keep arguing, I'm going to have to trade this in.
To add insult to injury, you have a bloody dinner about it to celebrate it every year. I mean, what? And I've been invited to one. A very, very good friend of mine, Gary and Robin Mond, they've invited me to their Thanksgiving dinner. So I said, hang on a minute. So you were inviting me to a dinner to celebrate the fact that you hate our guts? And they said, yes. I said, oh, okay.
Well, now the Thanksgiving celebration is not about getting away from England. That was more than 100 years before.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. That shows me how ignorant I am. Sorry.
Thanksgiving was the Pilgrims surviving.
Don't try to take too much credit for it, Lois, because saying you hate my guts, now pass the mashed potatoes. That's a very American thing.
Oh, I'm sounding ever so ignorant. I'm actually going to stop speaking now.
No. Okay. All right. We're going to shift. We're going to find a science question if I can find one here, if we have any good ones. I do want to highlight this comment that was posted to the chat that I really appreciated here from Jacob, who said, I love looking up information on climate realism. Every time I see a climate alarmist headline, I look on the Climate Realism website to see the facts. Thank you so much, Jacob. We love that. All right. Let's see. Oh, DJ Bo asks, any news about the new 5-star resort they'll be building for the next climate conference?
Can't make it up, can you? Can you make it up?
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be net zero. the construction and the concrete and the diesel fuel to run the machinery, that won't trigger anything.
Net zero benefit for the local economy.
All right. Dolores asks, any news on non-lithium alternative electric batteries that have been reported in production? They are claimed to not have the fire problem. There's a lot of alternatives to lithium. A lot of those alternatives, though, are from what I understand, are very much constrained by weight. A lot of them weigh quite a bit more than the lithium ion, which is saying something. Most cars a while ago, I think they still are mostly lead acid batteries, which are different too. So there's a lot of different types of batteries. It depends. Ian McMillan says that his Prius has a nickel based battery. So yeah, there's a lot of different batteries. It's just the lithium ion ones at this point have the energy density to weight ratio that's best for electric cars.
And of course, the particles that are released from the weight of the car being so much heavier are so much more dangerous to health than any perceived or fabricated danger from CO2 emissions. The actual particles from the tires from the heavier cars, it's that the whole thing is topsy-turvy. I mean, Lewis Carroll wouldn't have even been able to imagine such a topsy-turvy Alice in Wonderland world. He really wouldn't.
Yeah, so who knows? I mean, we might have better, mass-produced batteries in time, but that time is not right now.
Well, they're developing all sorts of new battery technologies. Iron something. They're all of them supposed to be less prone to fire and work better. But once again, they're in development, and it might take years, and they might never come to fruition.
All right. Now we have this question from Tech, who asks, "Do we even know the impact on the climate of cremation?" Anthony, do we know?
Well, honestly, I don't, but I'm sure whatever the figures are, they're dead on.
That's worse than one of mine.
Oh,
that is a proper dad joke. That's what we call in England a dad joke.
Give us that one. All right. So we also got a question from a viewer in email, which I can pull up from the back chat here, but
I have it in front of me if you want me to read it.
Sure, you can.
Read it out, yeah. So, okay. So, this comes from one of our viewers. He emailed us at the Heartland Institute. He says he's an independent political economist and scientist, and he's been working on climate change issues for a few years now, really looking at the work of guys like Dr. Roy Spencer and other people that we work with at the Heartland Institute. And his question is this. It's kind of a technical question, but hey, if you reach out with a good question, we're going to try to answer it, and we'll do it on the air. So he says here, John Tyndall made the first experiments with CO2 using a pipe filled with CO2 that was placed horizontal to the ground. Then Svante Arrhenius, I'm sorry if I get that wrong, used moonlight measurements with the moon at very low angles to Earth's surface in order to estimate CO2's absorptive properties in Earth's atmosphere. Given that these two forms of measurement by Tyndall and Arrhenius would grossly overestimate CO2's heat-absorbing properties, given these measurements are made horizontal to the Earth's surface, and therefore they eliminate the force of Earth's gravity, which is the most powerful force in the convection of heat, is this then the point of original scientific mistake that has even been made by Tyndall and Arrhenius that has originally misled all of the overestimates of CO2's temperature heating properties today and even in today's climate models? And then he finishes up here saying, it is always very helpful to pinpoint the specific scientific mistakes that are made that led to scientific misinformation and therefore waste in order to correct them. If I am right, hopefully this can help with the coming litigations concerning the endangerment finding. Now, when I got that email actually personally to my email account, I forwarded it to our climate team, that climate team being Anthony, Sterling, and Linnea. So Anthony, I think you jumped in with some answers if you want to address that.
Right. I did respond to that email in detail. And so I'm going to paraphrase some of the response. And I wrote back that you're right to question whether 19th century experiments by Tyndall and Arrhenius could possibly provide the basis for today's numbers. And the answer is they can't. Those measurements back then were relatively crude, and so they were really not much better than estimates. But the fact is that those are not being used in the models and calculations done today. The measurements that are used about CO2 came from modern spectroscopy, lab measurements, and satellite measurements. But even though we've got far better measurements today, there's still a great deal of uncertainty in the whole climate calculation process. For example, since 1990, CO2 has been calculated to add about 1 watts per square meter of forcing, and a doubling of CO2 is supposed to add about 4 watts per square meters. But those are all theoretical numbers and not direct measurements of Earth's climate system. They come from computer models. And so they're only as good as their assumptions. And that's where the problems begin. We put too many assumptions into climate models. And then when the output comes out, people that don't know any better latch onto that, like, you know, the infamous RCP 8.5 that the media loves to tout, you know, where they show this hellish hot future, which is totally impossible because there's not enough fossil fuel on the planet available to make the RCP 8.5 scenario turn out. So we get these people chasing after these phantoms that have been created, you know, in the climate models. So, you know, the real issue is that modern climate science leans heavily on models and assumptions that have known flaws and uncertainties while ignoring or minimizing biases in measurements like UHI or microsite sighting issues that make the problem look worse than it is in the measurements that we have. So that's why the question was important. The real mistake isn't from the 19th century. It's how today's climate establishment treats speculative model outputs as if they were hard facts.
Yep. Thank you so much. That was great. We love the science questions on this on this channel. Alrighty.
Yeah, to be fair to Arrhenius, he didn't have the equipment to do what we do today. Even the equipment we do today isn't necessarily accurate because it's built on, as you say, it's the outputs from climate models. But at the time that he wrote, he retracted one paper, and what he was pretty consistent on was that warming would be a benefit. He thought that the increase in CO2 in the atmosphere from power plants, we didn't have the cars then, would benefit us by greening the planet and doing crop production. And in that, he was 100% correct.
He was.
Yeah. Well, you know, and two, you don't want to be too hard on the guys who are, you know, kind of paving the way and not getting it quite right away. You know,
Yeah,
they were working with what they had, and they were doing some pretty darn good work with it. So
yeah, and as a layman, I guess the science wasn't settled in the 19th century, just like it isn't settled in the 21st.
Never settled.
Yeah, Newton was a pretty smart guy, even though we don't use Newtonian physics anymore.
Yeah, we do, just not in everything.
Yeah. So Kwan says, has anyone tried to quantify the CO2 emissions from the Ukraine war?
Well, no, of course they haven't, because the Ukraine war is a woke thing. So therefore, there won't be any analysis whatsoever about anything negative to do with it. And that doesn't mean that I'm coming down in favour of anybody on either side. But there's certainly vested interests on the left side, hasn't there, been with the whole ecosystem created by the war, or economic system, I should say.
Well, remember when the war, at the outset of the war, John Kerry said, let's not forget about the dangers of climate change and how the war.
John Kerry can do one. Honestly, does anyone take any notice of anything he says anymore? And I tell you something, right? And I don't wish to be ageist. He needs to stop wearing jeans. There is a point, and I said this to my own father, right, who thinks that he's cool as anything in the entire planet, right?
Yeah, I'd rather he wear jeans.
No more denim. No more denim.
I'd rather he wear denim than spandex. So.
Oh So
Yeah,
that's a
parachute
dark world
pants.
that you just
Parachute
planted in
You
everybody's
guys
brains,
rock
Jim.
denim, but John Kerry, it's not doing it for me. It really isn't.
Okay, so Chris Nisbet asks, can Nigel start discussions with fossil fuel generation companies even before reform gets into power to reduce lead time a little? Big lead time for gas turbines, apparently.
Oh, I've got to be extremely careful here. All I can say is that there's no flies on Mr. Farage, and any discussions that he feels would benefit the UK immediately on day one, which could be as soon as 2027 of his premiership, he would be having. But I would be if I confirmed any such meetings. Was that
How dare you?
okay?
An engineer guy says, any comments for Lois on Trump's visit to the UK?
Oh, we loved having Trump over. It was quite interesting because there were certain aspects of the media that tried to paint it a certain way. It's so funny because literally the wokest TV channel in England did ITV did a poll on their channel, on their program, their flagship morning program called Good Morning Britain, and it was the question was, do you support Trump's visit to the UK? Obviously, they were expecting a different result. I think it was around 78% said yes. So that slightly backfired. So we were delighted to have him over here. And, we love you guys. We really do.
They showed
Thank
the
you.
protesters.
Thank you for giving us Trump.
They showed the protesters and not the people cheering.
No, the vast majority of ordinary, normal British people are chuffed to bits with Trump and common sense prevailing generally. So thank you.
I like that phrase, chuffed to bits.
We are. Is that an English thing? I didn't even know
Yeah,
that.
no,
Is that it? Oh, right. Okay. We're chuffed to bits.
Definitely English.
All right. So from a Rumble viewer, CCM591 says the article in Politico says climate change beyond scientific dispute, National Academy's report says. Has anyone had a chance to review the whole National Academy's
neither
report?
have I. Maybe that'll be a topic for a future show.
I haven't reviewed the entire report. What I do know is, because I was asked about it and I looked into it. So you have to look at the report. It was never going to be an honest assessment from the start of climate change. It doesn't address the causes or the question. It doesn't address the question of, is climate change happening? And if so, what's the cause? It wasn't run by any physicist. It was run by a microbiologist. And so rather than sort of a response to the report the DOE put out, which was sort of comprehensive, it focused on what the people supposedly knew so much about, which was biology and the impacts on humans of warming world or worsening weather. Because that's microbiologists, there were people in public health authorities, nobody that knew anything about real climate change, but people that knew their discipline, where they were getting funding from agencies, from the federal government for think tanks that have to do with public health and climate change. If climate change goes away, their funding goes away.
Of course it does.
So that's the report. Now, just last Thursday, a week from yesterday, was when they were going to finalize the members of the committee. They put out a provisional committee list. They asked for public comments. I provided public comments among thousands of others, suggesting who they should get on the committee. So less than a week, 5 days after they supposedly received all the comments and made decisions, they produced a big report. Now, does anyone think, it turns out they'd met 5 times, despite the fact that we're in an official committee yet, they'd met 5 times privately. But does anyone think that the 12 or 15 members of this committee wrote that report in 5 days, had it edited and reviewed and produced in 5 days? Or do you think that maybe it was in the bag, they had the report already, and it was just a matter of them putting their little signatures, probably by auto pen, on it?
Auto pen.
Yeah. Lois, I think that your jeans comment was the most controversial thing anybody has said on this show.
It depends on the man. It depends on the man. It's nothing to do with age. It's nothing to do with it.
All right. And we have this very straightforward question from Kite Man Music, who says, "What are you doing after the show, Lois?"
Have I got loads of enemies now?
I think I might be an admirer.
Yeah. This is Kite Man, who says, "What are you doing after the show, Lois?"
Oh my goodness! I'm going to bed with the hot chocolate.
Awesome.
But thank you.
And we
maybe one more
we can leave it off on, which is, Lois, at what age must superannuated men cease their ridiculous gene-wearing behavior and behavior of
It depends on the man. It depends on the man. And all I can say is there's 80-year-olds that rock jeans, and then there's John Kerry that really doesn't. There's nothing it's all about attitude.
All right.
Maybe there needs to be a ministry formed in the UK on that.
But having said that, if Nigel tells me he's going to buy a pair of jeans, I'll be, advising him very delicately that that's not such a good show.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you very much, Linnea, for taking us through Q&A. That was great. I know we didn't get to every single question in the chat today, but we do our best to get to as many as we can. I want to thank Lois Perry, the director of Heartland UK Europe, for being our very special guest today. And we will have you back on again. I know the chat and the audience really enjoy it. And we here on the show, we enjoy it very much as well.
I'm sorry, I lowered the tone. I apologize. I think I'm funny. I laugh at my jokes, even if nobody else does.
Wow, we do laugh at your jokes. We do like to have a good time here, and you definitely contribute to that. So thank you. I also want to thank our streaming partners, junkscience.com, CFACT, the CO2 Coalition, Climate Depot, What's Up With That, and Heartland UK Europe. You can find them on all social media everywhere. Just search for their names and give them a follow. That'd be really good to do. Always visit climaterealism.com, where you can see us pushing back at climate alarmism every single day, just about. Go to climateataglance.com. We have a new second edition of that book coming out very soon, but climateataglance.com is where you can get all the information you need to push back on climate alarmists in your life. Go to Energy at a Glance for the same kind of information as well. Go to heartland.org, where you can subscribe to Sterling Burnett's Climate Change Weekly newsletter, which is always a great read almost every single Friday. And go to heartland.org/TCRS. Maybe put a couple bucks in the tip jar to help bring the show to the world every single week. We will see you again next Friday. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.